Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Subject Overview and Scrutiny Committee 1 meeting, which has been convened as a hybrid meeting. The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed subsequently. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing it either from the Council chamber here at Civic Offices, Angel Street, Bridgend, or from remote locations. Some of you may already be aware that I have a condition called adult onset epilepsy, which occasionally results in me experiencing short absences or mild seizures. On the rare occasions that this may happen in a meeting, you should not be alarmed, and should I as chair experience one of these absences or have any other technical ICT difficulties during the meeting, it has been agreed that Councillor Amanda Williams will step in temporarily as chair during the meeting, and in her absence, Councillor Tim Thomas will step in. Please can everyone ensure that mobile phones are switched off or switched to silent mode. Members will have received an electronic copy of the agenda, and I will ask the officer to present a brief summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Officers and members are reminded to refer to the page numbers contained in the public version of the agenda report pack. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their microphones on at that point, but I would ask that, with the exception of myself as chair, at all other times you keep your microphone switched off, as this will help to minimise any background noise and interference. However, I would invite members and officers to leave their cameras on for the duration of the meeting, as agreed at a recent full council meeting. Whether attending in the chamber or remotely, if any members and officers wish to raise a point or question, they should click the raise hand icon at the top right-hand side of the Microsoft Teams window, and I will come to you in the order I receive requests. If you are in the chamber, please switch on the microphone on your desk and speak directly into the microphone to allow those who are remote to hear you clearly. And please lower your hand once you have finished speaking. The instant messaging chat button has been disabled for this meeting, and please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. Officers from Scrutiny will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout its duration, and where necessary will mute those not being used. And I will ask officers to introduce themselves when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones are switched off when not in use. And I will now proceed to the agenda, and item 1, apologies for absence. I will now ask Rachel to announce the apologies for absence received.
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Ian Spiller and Councillor Richard Collins, and Registered Representative Mrs Angela Clark will be slightly late to the meeting due to appointment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel.
What am I doing wrong?
It's got some interference, so perhaps
Is it mine?
Yeah.
press F1, Martin.
They have.
Right, that was smooth, everyone. We'll go to item 2 now, and that's declarations of interest. If any member has an interest to declare in any matter on the agenda, please click on the raise hand icon. Councillor Melanie Evans, please.
A personal interest, as I am a governor at both Croisty and Pencoed Comprehensive, and my son also attends Pencoed Comprehensive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Amanda Williams.
Thank you very much, Chair. I am, it's personal interest. I am an LEA governor, and whilst I wouldn't normally declare an interest as an LEA governor, I am for this agenda item because I will be raising as examples those two schools. I'm Coity Primary School, I'm Chair of Governors, and I'm a governor at Bryntig Comprehensive School, and I also have 3 children at a comprehensive school in the borough. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williams. Are there any other declarations of interest? Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I'll now move to item 3, and that's the approval of minutes. Please can I have a mover and seconder for each set of minutes, the first being the 26th of May 2023.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Winstanley. Councillor Joanna Llewellyn-Hopkins, please.
Sorry I'm late, Alex. I couldn't get in. I've just had to have somebody send me the link again.
Okay, no problem. We've just gone through to the approval of minutes, but you may want to come in on item 2, declarations of interest.
Yeah.
I'm a governor at Comfort Comprehensive School. I've got 2 pupils who attend local schools. And also, I don't know whether this is a personal or a prejudicial. I was waiting for some advice. Myself and a family member are in the process of setting up a Welsh-speaking nursery in the area. So I don't know whether I can be involved in this item or not. Thank you.
Okay, obviously, declarations are a matter for the member, but I'll bring in Rachel now to provide some advice after consultation with the monitoring officer. Rachel, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I haven't managed to get much detail, Councillor Llewellyn Hopkins. It basically depends on what stage you're at in the planning and really what the discussion consists of in terms of the WESP item. And it really would be down to you. I'd certainly say it would be a personal interest, but it's up to you whether you think that, as I said, depending on where you are in your plans at the moment, whether you think it would be prejudicial. Thank you.
We are currently looking for premises. We haven't applied for any licenses yet, but we have spoken to the council about the matter. So I'm not sure. It's definitely a personal interest, but I don't know whether it would be prejudicial.
Okay, are you able to confirm whether you're declaring a personal or prejudicial interest, because it makes a difference with regards to the item? Unfortunately, I think you'll have to leave the meeting if it's prejudicial, whereas if it's personal, you can remain in the meeting and participate.
I think just to cover myself, I'm probably better off declaring prejudicial. But if I could be called back in for the next agenda item, please, because obviously it doesn't affect that.
Sure, absolutely. Please, please leave the meeting when we reach item 4. We haven't done so as yet, and
Okay.
We'll ensure the scrutiny team bring you back in for item 5.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Llewellyn Hopkins. We'll now move to item 3. Now, the minutes of the 26th of May 2023 were moved by Councillor Amanda Williams and seconded by Councillor Elaine Winstanley. So we'll now go to the minutes of the 11th of September 2023. Could I have a mover and seconder?
Yeah, happy to move again.
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Now the minutes of the 12th of October 2023.
Yeah, happy to move again.
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Peter second.
Thank you, Councillor Winstanley. And the minutes of the 18th of January 2024.
Again, happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Winstanley. Now we move to our first substantive item on the agenda for today's meeting, and that's the Welsh in Education Strategic Plan. And I believe, Becca, you're going to be introducing this report.
I am, Chair, thank you very much. So I'm Becca Avji and I'm the West Coordinator. So everybody's received a copy of the report, so I'll just go through some of the main points. The objective of the WESP is to improve Welsh medium education and Welsh medium education planning and to raise standards. There's a target being set to increase the number of year 1 learners taught through the medium of Welsh from approximately 8% to between 14 and 18%. By 2032. The plans that we have got in place are to provide a new build and enlarge the number of pupils attending Ysgol y Ferch o Sgêr, enlarge and relocate Ysgol Gymraeg Bro Ogor to increase the PAN to 75, which is a 2.5 form entry. In the interim period, to secure temporary accommodation, a temporary classroom for Ysgol Gymraeg Bro Ogor, to establish a seedling school in Porthcawl area, to complete site appraisal for Ysgol Gymraeg Llangynnwyd with a site feasibility study, and to scope options to progress Porthcawl and Bridgend southeast area. The plan aligns with Cymraeg 2050 strategy, which is aimed to increase Welsh speakers. Within the first year of the WEF in July 2023, we wrote a report to Welsh Government showcase the initial progress and milestones, and Welsh Government recognised the effective partnerships that have developed over the first year. We have 5 subgroups, and each subgroup focus on the 7 outcomes that are within the WESP, and the subgroups are working effectively. Each subgroup has a subgroup development plan which helps focus the work of the subgroup. Task and finish groups happen between the termly meetings, as well as meetings with myself. Task and finish groups consist of things like admission data analysis activities, analysis of pupil numbers transferring from Cylchoedd Meithrin to Welsh medium schools, late immersion monitoring, update of the websites, and where officers work with partners to meet targets and actions set within the WESP and the subgroup development groups. One of our main focuses this year is to develop the late immersion provision, which has been in place since last year. We're currently meeting the demands of pupils and schools. Last term we had 3 late immersion classes. For the summer term we have 2, with support also going to those pupils who were in the late immersion last term, and we're providing aftercare for them. So we're in 2 camps at the moment. Updates are recorded within the subgroup development plans and are rated every subgroup meeting, which are every term. They are live documents which are open to all of our partners, so they're able to go in and update and to check on progress throughout the year. We have other financial implications as well as things that are happening with the local authority, and these include funding for the WESP coordinator position and also funding once the grant comes to an end for the late immersion provision. Diolch.
Thank you very much, Becca, for that summary of what is a very lengthy report. We've got a number of questions, and I believe Councillor Tim Thomas has a question on the cover report with regards to the subgroups.
Yeah.
Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, sorry about that, Chair. Just a few little technical problems. Just in the cover report, there's quite a few references to the subgroups.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that terms of references have been made, chairs have been appointed. Just need a bit of clarity on who the chairs are. What progress has been made in these subgroups to date, and how can members be kept updated with any progress that these subgroups have made, please?
So the subgroups are made up, sorry, diolch. The subgroups are made up of members of the WEF. We have about 10 members and 10 partners within each subgroup. We have 5 subgroups covering 7 outcomes. We have got a detailed subgroup development plan, which is a live document, and partners are able to, so if there's been a task and finish activity, that they then go and update the subgroup development plan. And everything's incorporated in one document, which is then used to write the annual review report to Welsh Government at the end of the year. In terms of how council members are able to keep check on how the subgroups are progressing is something I'll need to consider.
Fair enough. Thanks so much. Diolch.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thomas. Thank you, Becca. Just on the subgroups, is it possible to see the annual subgroup development plan, and is it possible for the committee to be issued with the red, amber, yellow, green ratings against the actions which are outlined in Appendix 3 in the annual review?
I can share that with you, it's no problem.
Thank you. If you could share that with the committee, that would be fantastic. Now I'll bring in Councillor Melanie Evans.
Yeah, thank you, Becca, and thank you for the report. I've got a generic question with regard to the Welsh in Education Strategic Plan Coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
I note from the cover report, point 8.2, a seconded Welsh Education Strategic Plan Coordinator is funded until the 31st of the 3rd, 24. With further funding from earmarked reserves until the 31st of the 3rd, 25. However, no secure funding after that. However, if I can also bring your attention to Appendix 4, point 8.3, it says in that report, The secondment for the WESP coordinator began in the 1st of September 22 for a period of 18 months until the 31st of the 3rd, 24, funded by established earmarked reserves. There is no identified finance for the WESP coordinator beyond this period. So just for clarification then, is there a WESP coordinator in place for 2025 as suggested in the cover report? What is the cost of a WESP coordinator? Where has this funding come from? And what are the consequences of not having a WESP coordinator, please?
Thank you, Councillor Evans. I think Becca might have an interest in this one, so I'll bring in the Corporate Director for Education and Family Support, Lindsay Harvey.
Thanks, Chair. For the purpose of the recording, I'm Lindsay Harvey. I'm Corporate Director of Education and Family Support. Councillor Evans, thank you for your questions. Again, it wouldn't be fair for Becca to pick these up, so I'm more than happy to try and answer them. You're absolutely right in the comments you've made there, Councillor Evans. This is a grant-funded post and it's fixed term. With all grant-funded, obviously, they are not made permanent because they're due to grant funding. Initially, there was grant funding available through various Welsh Government funding mechanisms. Indeed, this year, one of the 4 funding streams from Welsh Government has been for the WESP, or promoting the Welsh language. So again, we've been able to extend the secondment to the end of this academic year. One of the challenges we have, of course, is that this post isn't a permanent post. There is no statutory requirement to have it, but we believe this is a vital investment in Welsh language education across Bridgend. So I am able to confirm to this committee today that we are currently pursuing a number of other options with regard to core and grant funding to try and look at extending this coordinator post further. Clearly, I'm not in a position to consolidate that yet, but as soon as I do, I'll make elected members fully aware of it. One thing I will say, and again, it wouldn't be fair for Becca, obviously, to comment on this, but hopefully the head teacher representatives present will recognise the outstanding work that Becca has done in this field over the last 2 years. We're delighted with all your hard work, Becca, and obviously we are very keen to continue this role if we can.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. It's encouraging news that you're exploring different avenues of funding, because clearly I think there's risks associated with the ambitions contained within the Welsh Education Strategic Plan if the WESP coordinator ceases to be in post. Perhaps just picking up on your comments with regards to the experience that head teachers have had from working with Becca over the course of the last few years. But perhaps I can invite some of our head teachers to contribute to the discussion on how they have felt that this particular role and the Welsh Education Strategic Plan has progressed since the beginning of its term in 2022. Would anyone like to share their views? Thank you. Catherine, please. You're on mute at the moment.
There was always going to be one, wasn't there?
Yeah,
Sorry.
It's normally me. It's normally me, don't worry.
Catherine Evans, Assistant Head in Llangynnoed. I'd say Becca's just been essential to the work now over the past year or so in coordinating all of us, getting us all together to do those discussions, holding us to account in terms of the progress that we have to be making against our targets. And I think you do need somebody in that post to be able to do that. Otherwise, these things do get lost in the day-to-day running of stuff. So I would definitely say what Lindsay said, or agree with what Lindsay said, that Becca's position this year has been invaluable to us as schools.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Do any other head teachers have any of their perspectives on it? If not, please raise your hand during the course of the meeting if you'd like to make any remarks. But I'll bring in Neil Davis, head teacher of Mynydd Cymru Primary School.
Yes, hi, thanks. No, I you know, obviously from an English medium primary school then, but we've worked very hard to develop Welsh language skills with our children, and the support of Becca and the team, I suppose, around it have been crucial to the progress that we're making. And I think as well it's important to consider the confidence of the teachers in delivering the language to the children as well. And we've been, I suppose you could say, fortunate enough then. We had a teacher go on a 12-month secondment last year through and if I'm right in saying it's to the University of South Wales now, isn't it, in Pontypridd, and got his qualification from that, and he's come back a different teacher. So the confidence that he's gained and the impact that it's having on our pupils in school has been considerable. And it's only through the kind of the guidance and the encouragement of the team that has made us aware of this opportunity, really. Because in amongst all of the various emails and adverts that we get for various courses and so on, things can get lost. But it certainly had a very positive impact at our school, and certainly having a very positive impact on the development of our pupils as well. So thank you, Becca and your team.
Thank you very much for that insight, Neil. It's really useful, and a glowing report there, Becca. I'm sure you're thrilled with those remarks at the very beginning of the meeting. Thank you very much. I'll bring in now Councillor Amanda Williams.
Thank you very much, Chair. Apologies for noise in the background. If you can hear it, there's some lawn mowing going next door. I've got some questions on the cover report on 2.5, 2.7 and 3.8, but they all link into the same questions. So 2.5, purpose of the regulations to support the current stroke future expectation for growth in Welsh medium education. And 2.7 is increase the number of learners. So increase from 8% to 14 to 18% by 2032. So firstly, from this report, and look at the appendices, the report is quite old. The statistics backing up this report are from 2019, 2020. So my first question there is, are you saying there, does this simply mean more children entering into education in Welsh? Or is it how they progress in there from nursery to Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 2, comprehensive, Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4 and A-level? And have we got a breakdown on how we're doing compared to these targets of 8% to increase to 14 to 18%? Are we anywhere near? Because this report for me doesn't show that information. So that's my first question, please.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Becca, are you in a position to answer that?
I am, diolch. So Welsh Government, when the WES was first being put together for this current 10-year plan, they wanted to have a measure. So they've put in that for year 1 year learners, that they're going to measure the number of year 1 learners in Welsh medium education. And they use the data from 2019 to 2020. So what we do then within our subgroups is to analyse data on admissions and also the number of places that we have available. So our plan is to increase the numbers that we have available within Welsh medium primary schools, and then we've also got work then to do to increase the numbers of pupils attending taking those places up. Have I answered your question?
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Well, in a way, but it doesn't give us where we are now and how are we close to achieving or getting near to 14 to 18% by 2032, please. Thanks.
Thanks, Becca.
So within the annual review report, we've looked at PLASC data. So if I just have a quick look, last year we were more than 8%. Let me just check what appendix is, because I've got them all open on the screen here.
I think while you're looking for that data, Becca, one of the perspectives that the committee have shared with me in our considerations for the report is that clearly this report was put together, I believe, in July last year. It then went to Cabinet, I believe, Councillor Blundell and Lindsay, in September of last year. I think the Scrutiny Committee would prefer a role whereby we have an impact on the strategic plan at a pre-scrutiny level, so before it goes to Cabinet. So I don't know whether it's possible at all, but if the report is published in July of this year, perhaps we can see that up-to-date data then, which Councillor Williams is asking for. We can consider it perhaps at our September meeting, and then it can go to Cabinet with our recommendations and conclusions, whereby clearly, due to the very significant financial implications which could could compromise the delivery of the ambitions contained in the WESP, we could play a role, more of a role, in providing conclusions and recommendations which the Cabinet member and his colleagues can consider. But I'll come back to you now. You may have some more data to share.
Diolch. So the data for 2022-2023, we had 9.05% of children in Welsh medium education.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Williams, would you like to come back?
Just to say, are we confident that we're going to be getting anywhere near the targets for 2032? I know it seems a long way off, but time goes so quickly. Thanks.
Thanks. Becca, have you looked into your crystal ball?
There's certainly the will within the local authority to create those places, and with the work of the subgroups for promoting, marketing and celebrating the work that the English medium schools are doing, and to be promoting and marketing Welsh medium schools. I think we will get there for sure.
Thank you very much, Becca. The leader would like to come in, Councillor Hugh David.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. First of all, just to say that we certainly welcome the principle of pre-decision scrutiny, and certainly in regard to this policy, though of course I can't speak for future Cabinet decisions, but I'm sure the willingness is there to have that pre-decision scrutiny. And then on Councillor Williams's point, I think it's fair to describe our targets as being ambitious, and we're right to be ambitious, aren't we? What I would say, though, is that much of the way that we're going to deliver on these objectives is by, you've got to create the capacity first, and you will see that we have those plans in place, and they're making very good progress around creating additional places in Brackler at Broagu, additional places at Canelli with the replacement expansion of Llachosger, and with the new Welsh medium school in Porthcawl as well, and other initiatives. I suppose the challenge will be is filling those places. But that's why we continue to work very closely with the Forum and with partners and with the primary schools on promoting the great advantage of Welsh medium education, making sure that every parent is aware of that choice and that option, and also the importance of that childcare provision, because we know that if parents choose, and if children start on that Welsh medium journey in preschool childcare or in Flying Start, they're much more likely to continue on that journey throughout their education. So that is an ongoing piece of work to make sure that we do meet those targets. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Leader, for providing that overall context, which sets us up nicely for a more detailed consideration of the different outcomes contained within the WESP. But I'll bring in Councillor Williams for any further remarks on the cover report before we move to nursery provision.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yep, 3.8. So it's outcomes 3, 4 and 5. More children to improve Welsh language skills from one stage to another. More learners study for assessed qualifications in Welsh as a subject. As Chair of Governors of Coiti, I had the absolute pleasure recently of going in for the day to watch their Eisteddfod and seeing how they work closely with other Welsh medium schools at Ysgol Bro Ogwr, and it was fantastic. So I can see the improvements that are being made within schools with regards to Welsh. It's clear there that schools are making good strides at a primary level to include Welsh in the curriculum. But my concern for this is, firstly, I'd like more detail on this statement from one stage to another. What stages are those? Are you talking about the key stages? Because once we get to comprehensive school, you speak Welsh up until GCSE now, but we're seeing a massive decline, because I'm also a governor in a comprehensive school, in the number of children taking up Welsh as an A level. So how are we ensuring more learners study for assessed qualifications in Welsh in our English medium schools when we're having 2 or 3 people wanting to opt for A-level Welsh? When we've got such substantial budget cuts, schools cannot afford to pay for a teacher to teach 2 or 3 children. And that will be across the board for the English medium schools to provide that support. Which leads me on then to, whilst you could have collaborative working, and throughout this report it does say about collaborative working, schools don't have the budgets either now to pay for the taxis to send those children on to the Welsh medium schools who could potentially offer that Welsh option. So yeah, that's my questions and my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who would like to take that? Lindsay would like to take that one.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Williams. I'll cover off a few of the points there because they are really important points. First of all, you mentioned about retention. Retention is really important at all points of the journey. When we look at, and again, we're lucky in Bridgend, we've got a very integrated schools education and non-maintained settings with regard to childcare and nursery. So a key part of the work we do, is certainly within the Welsh Education Forum, is to encourage that journey between Welsh medium childcare into primary schools. So that's the first point. And within the plan itself, then, is a number of statistics and efforts, the way we're looking to promote and retain pupils throughout their educational journey. Probably the best way to sum it up is if we look at the one that the chairs referred to this earlier today, in Cabinet in September 23, there was a report there with a number of appendices. I think it was Appendix 3 that provides the annual report, and this provides all the statistics that is available. But again, on the point that the chair has raised, I think there is great value, as the leader has said, in bringing it as pre-decision scrutiny, which I'm more than happy doing with the leader and Councillor Blundell's permission in future. So certainly would be happy doing that. But all the information is there. The issue around collaborative working, I'll bring through, with the chair's permission, Sue and Becca in shortly. The point you've made around the cost of transport is an important one. And what we have tried to do is we have tried to make sure there are opportunities online to provide these opportunities so there is no cost with regard to transport, and also share transport, share staff costs. In addition to that, obviously the next item on the agenda today is Central South. We've had sterling support from Central South with regard to the curriculum offer, Welsh being one of them, and they support all the schools, Welsh medium and English medium, in providing the offer. I think the point that Councillor Williams makes is a really important one as well, is about tapping into the expertise and excellence that are in our Welsh medium schools. And we've seen this, highly successfully with the co-located schools we've seen across the borough. But also, we are delighted with the work that all of our Welsh medium schools do with our English medium schools to support them on the journey. And again, through you, Chair, if we can invite Sue and Becca in, they'll provide some of the examples of the collaborative work and also some of the work we've done with Central South Consortium around Crew Cymraeg.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. Sue, Becca, would you like to come in with any supplementary remarks?
Yeah, shall I start?
Yes.
The example then that I'm able to give is one that has been developed with the Curriculum Leaders Development Group, which is basically deputy heads and assistant heads in each of the secondary schools. And in the last almost 2 years, we've run a pilot programme where we're offering A-level Welsh, and the teaching commitment is shared between 2 schools, the 2 schools being Pencoed and Maesteg. One teacher in each school teaching half of the specification themselves. Now that's a situation where each school had small numbers. The numbers wouldn't have been viable to take an A-level class through, but clearly we wanted to maintain the provision. And that's been very successful. We're actually looking at that model to see if other schools can join, and there's certainly interest in that happening. And also we're looking at that provision to see if it might actually serve as a template for other subject areas that can be offered in the same way. in a way of making sure that we're able to extend the curriculum offer to learners across the borough and make sure they have it. In this particular instance, obviously the big focus was on maintaining Welsh A level and making sure that learners had got opportunity to take the subject through to completion, through to A level, and hopefully on to university and further study. So that's one example of how it's kind of working in practice.
Thank you, Sue. Any further remarks, Becca, or has it been covered off?
Yeah, we're also really pleased with the work that the English medium secondary schools are doing within their Welsh departments, also supporting their cluster schools with things like the Eisteddfodau and also holding career events to show the benefits of being able to speak Welsh within their future careers. So we have lots of support, especially from Bryn Teg, with working with their cluster schools. We're very pleased with that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Becca. I'll bring in the Cabinet Member, Councillor Bundle, and then I'll bring Sue back in.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and obviously thank you, Councillor Williams, for the original question. I think you raised an interesting point where you started there. The primary schools in English medium in this county are doing extremely well in promoting and speaking Welsh language. And in fact, a number of Eston reports we've had from primary schools in the last year or so, we've had praise for it. Avon Llewellyn, Oldcastle, as well as others who are showcasing their Welsh talents, across Wales. We went to go see Avon Llewellyn at the Eisteddfod, this last year. So and we're expecting more children to go again this year and more schools to get involved in that, because it is important. It isn't just for Welsh medium schools to promote the use of Welsh language, it's also for our English medium schools, and they're doing it fantastically well. So it was just really to highlight that point, really, because I think they are doing a brilliant job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brundle. Sue and then Becca.
Yeah, I just thought I should mention as well and acknowledge really the support of the Welsh medium schools in these arrangements as well, because certainly the collaborative experience that I've talked about there has been very much developed in line with what YGG Llancynoed have been doing for a number of years, actually, with collaborative courses between themselves and Llanharry. And so we've learned a lot from their experience and have built on that. And likewise, I think in the primary experiences then as well, we've got some very good examples there. Councillor Blundell mentioned Avon Llewellyn. I know they've been working very closely with Ysgolhaig Cysgair, and that's something that we're certainly encouraging, because it's building good practice from Welsh medium into English medium and vice versa in some instances. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Becca, please.
Just to pick up on the point that Councillor Blundell raised about the Siarter Iaith Cymraeg campus, within the local authority now, we have 58 out of 60 schools now engaged, which has exceeded our target set within the WESP for this year. So we're very pleased with that and thankful to CSC for their support with getting schools to engage and to be moving them along the continuum to be receiving awards. Felly diolch.
Thank you very much. Going back to Councillor Williams now.
Yes, I did have something to come back on, but I think I'll raise it further on in the report, because it was all about collaborative learning and online learning. So I can park it for now and bring it up later if you want me to.
That's fine. Just to say that collaboration is going to be key, isn't it? Given the fact that we've got financial pressures across the whole directorate, really, but in specific regard to the schools delegated. What's the word? School delegated grants? No, budget. Yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought then. So perhaps I can ask the head teachers for their view, because this is going to have an impact for them as in managing their own budgets. Now, in the midterm financial strategy, there are going to be significant pressures on schools, which are going to be resulting in the vast majority of them running deficit budgets. Can I ask head teachers for their view on how this could particularly affect the delivery of the Welsh Education Strategic Plan with respect to their own schools, and perhaps just focus on the WESP rather than more generally? Would anyone like to offer any remarks? Mr. Davis, head teacher Bryn Teg.
Hello, good morning everyone. Bore da. Yes, the budget constraints are already having an impact. We are one of the schools that has struggled to continue with A-level Welsh this year due to the low number of pupils that wanted to take it. I think when we did our options process with our current year 11, only 2 pupils wanted to take the course. For us, though, what is really important is working with the new curriculum model in years 7, 8 and 9 and looking at our learning and teaching strategies and developing those because we've got a fantastic Welsh department at Bryn Teg, as I know many secondary schools do have. But even they are saying and reflecting on their learning and teaching strategies and saying, well, perhaps what we've done in the past isn't suiting the learners of today. And so we're tipping learning and teaching on its head and really trying to look at the learning and teaching model that will encourage our learners to learn Welsh and, of course, modern foreign languages as well, because we've seen a similar but not as marked a decline in the interest in studying French and Spanish as well. We are already suffering because we've had to make some very big decisions about our curriculum model, Chair. But we do feel quite positive if we are able to continue with our teaching and learning developments in year 7 to 9, when they feed through into Key Stage 4 and post 16, that they will have a positive impact on numbers there.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, for that insight. Would anyone else like to add anything? Evans, Catherine Evans.
I think similarly to what's been said, the creativity I think we as schools now have to show with the development of the new curriculum in Key Stage 3 as we're moving through has been really helped by COVID, bizarrely enough, and the kind of the teaching and learning that we had to do during those times. And what we're now using is a lot more of this collaboration, online collaboration, because we don't have the funding for the buses and the transport that we would have usually had in terms of working with other schools. So if I give an example possibly for our cluster, in terms of Spanish, we do online Spanish lessons every week, every Wednesday. Now, we wouldn't have the money to be shipping learners or even to be releasing staff with the travel time to be doing those sessions, but to be able to run them online has been really quite powerful in terms of making sure they're getting those opportunities. And it is something we're also looking at with some of our English medium county schools, of something we could be running as well with our sixth formers, running similar sessions in Welsh with some of their younger learners as part of their enrichment activities. So I think the lessons that we learned during those really difficult times and those difficult years that we had have been actually quite valuable now in looking at different, more creative ways of getting out and working together with the new curriculum and beyond.
Great, thank you very much for that insight there. I know Councillor Evans and Councillor Thomas have been extremely patient, so I'll bring in Councillor Evans now.
Thank you, Chair. I'm aware that we'll be moving on to the outcomes, and being we're discussing the WESP plan at the moment, I was hoping you would oblige me in asking a generic question with regards to the WESP plan, Chair.
Please do.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. The plan indicates over a 5-year period between 2022 to 2027, 7 outcomes and 68 targets. However, only 8 updates are recorded in the actual plan itself. Now, these targets are a priority, I understand, for the LA, local authority, as mentioned in page 222, Appendix 3. So for me, I wonder if you could just clarify and help me understand, why have there only been 8 updates recorded in the plan to date? Are we on target to achieve this plan within the time scales set? What do you foresee as the hold-ups for not achieving the plan? What are the consequences of not achieving this plan? And finally, will this plan be reviewed given the current financial situation, please?
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Some big strategic questions there, so perhaps I can bring in Lindsay first.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Evans. I'll try to remember them all. If I don't, remind me, and I'll come back to them. So first of all, with the updates, I think the mechanics of updating this are principally within the Welsh Education Forum. Now, this is a statutory forum that we're expected to convene with regard to Welsh Government statutory guidance. It's supported not just by Becca, but also by a wide range of partners from within the Directorate and external partners, and they all play a vital part in that. Every meeting is attended by a Welsh Government official, so they make sure that obviously we are compliant with Welsh Government expectations. And again, being very fortunate to have a Welsh in Education Strategic Plan Coordinator, obviously that's beneficial to us because Becca's key role is to monitor progress in that. So the key updates, although there is no statutory requirement to provide a cabinet paper on this, we do. We provide it on an annual basis. We've also, as you've indicated, provided the 5-year plan, and that sets out the broader strategic themes, and also then a subsumed within the 10-year plan as a requirement, statutory requirement for Welsh Government. So in addition to the 8 updates you've mentioned there, obviously there are multiple updates, and taking away a recommendation from this committee today, obviously then we'll provide more visibility with regard to the subgroups and the WEF, so you'll see that as well. Some of the other ones with regard to the hurdles and some of the obstacles that we face with regard to this. Clearly, as the leaders indicated, we've deliberately set very ambitious targets for Welsh language. We recognise that we need to improve. It's certainly moving in the right direction, and we've invested heavily, not just in Becca's post, but in our commitment to new schools, our new childcare arrangements, and also across the Directorate. There's been a significant change in the way that we are supporting Welsh language across the county. So that's been really positive. The hurdles around it, inevitably, as the head teachers will tell you, one is inevitably finance. We've already talked about the importance of maintaining the West coordinator post, and that's something obviously we're keen to do, but that's limited by available finance. We're also making sure that the prominence and the importance of Welsh language development is right to the top of our strategic plan, and we want to make sure that it's consistently highlighted as a top priority for the local authority, so we don't want it lost amongst other priorities. But again, as Ryan David has already indicated, there's a lot going on in education at the moment, so part of this role is to really make sure that Welsh language promotion is right at the very top of what we do. And the key priorities really moving forward, well, obviously they are set out within the Welsh Education Strategic Plan. Some of these are strategic targets. Obviously, we have a requirement to meet these by Welsh Government, and they've been agreed not just with multiple partners, but also with Welsh Government, so they are happy with them. But in addition to that, and just to ally to the last point, I mentioned earlier about the 4 new funding streams from Welsh Government. One of those is Cymraeg 2050. There is a sum that comes in directly to the local authority on that. And with that grant, there's a range of terms and conditions that we must meet. So a part of this then is not just reporting within the WESP and the subgroups, but also then a statutory return to Welsh Government. And I'd be more than happy to share that with elected members if it would help.
Thank you. I'm sure that would assist Lindsay. Councillor Evans, would you like to come back on that at all?
Yeah, so how often then, Lindsay, is this plan, are we looking at reviewing this plan given the current situation? Did I miss that? I wasn't clear exactly how often this plan is to be reviewed, and who takes ownership of updating this plan, because when I'm looking at the plan, there have only been 8 updates, and in, just to give you an example, an update in 6.1 in the plan, it just says April 23. So, you know, I ain't got a Mystic Meg ball. What does that mean? You know, so who is responsible for updating this particular plan? Thank you. And how often will it be reviewed? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. I'll bring in Lindsay first and then Becca.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Evans. So it's an annual update. We provide annual updates and they must be submitted to Welsh Government. If I'm correct, Becca, please correct me if I'm not, I believe the Welsh Education Forum meets on a termly basis. So obviously then that's updated 3 times a year. In addition to that, then we meet with Welsh Government officials on key items. So, for example, it's a new build school, progression of Welsh medium childcare. So obviously then they require additional updates on that. But formally, there's 1 update per year, and that's submitted to Welsh Government.
I think potentially the commitment to see the subgroup development plans, the commitment to give us the red, amber, yellow, green ratings, the commitment to bring the report earlier in the municipal year and pre-decision scrutiny, I think they will mean that going forward, the Welsh Education Strategic Plan will see some revisions potentially because of financial implications, but also so that we can add value to the decision-making process. So hopefully that's sufficient, Councillor Evans, unless you'd like to make any supplementary remarks.
No, I think that's fine, Chair. I just think that the plan that we've been shown, there are only 8 updates in it and it needs to be streamlined. So from 2022, and we're in basically 2024, there have been just 8 updates in that plan. So to make it sort of like a great plan at a glance, then actually it would be very useful to have the updates contained within that plan. Thank you.
So I'm sure that's been noted by officers, Councillor Evans, and that will be incorporated in future versions of the plan. I'll bring in the leader, and then Councillor Tim Thomas has been waiting about half an hour now to come in on his point. So, and then we'll have to move on to discuss some of the outcomes, because in a pack of 458 pages, I think we're on page 20. So I'll bring in the leader first.
Thanks, Chair. And just on Councillor Evans's question around hurdles, we would have to say that one of the potential hurdles is going to be finance, isn't it? And the financial risk. So whilst we have a very ambitious school modernisation programme of £68 million investment in schools, and obviously at the heart of that is investment in Welsh medium education, that can only be delivered in partnership with Welsh Government, who are delivering the lion's share of that funding. And of course, we have that support in principle, but we also know that the capital programme is a dynamic programme, and those individual schemes each carry their own individual risks. And what we've seen with most of our capital projects is that they are subject to significant cost pressures that mean that we have to revisit those projects and work with our partners to make sure that they can be delivered. So that's a general risk that we're alive to, that we are constantly considering. And I would also make the wider point that the plan, again, in response to Councillor Evans's questions, it's a fair one, but the plan is a dynamic plan, and the forum is constantly reviewing the plan, holding itself and us and partners to account, and making sure that we update that a plan when we need to make sure that it delivers on those outcomes, which you'll come on to next. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Thomas, you've lowered your hand now.
Yeah, the reason being, Chair, I had some technical problems, and I thought we were on objective 1, so I'm happy to wait or whatever. Might be a good time.
It is a very good time because we're moving to objective 1 now, so yeah. I can bring you in on your point.
Lovely, thank you, Chair. Yeah, looking at objective 1, it looks at the number of children going to Welsh medium nursery provision, and to try and make sure, and it makes the point that there was a review looking at the number of children going to nursery, then going on to Welsh medium education. And it says that for many reasons, and they're complex, a number of children drop out from nursery provision up to primary. I'm just wondering, and it states some of the reasons: distance, transport, all sorts of things. I'm just wondering how we came to those conclusions. What methods did we use to understand that conclusion? Did we do a survey of parents? Did we do, I don't know, like a sort of focus group or anything like that? I'm just trying to get a greater understanding of our knowledge and research and methodology behind those statements. That's all, really.
Thanks, Councillor Thomas. Becca, can you take that one?
Okay. We work very closely with one of our partners, which is Midget Meithrin, and as part of their work, that they look at the number of children that are attending the Cylchoedd Meithrin and then transfer, and then they also do a piece of work then to look at the barriers for not choosing Welsh medium education. So that information came from Midget Meithrin.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas, you contend?
Yes, thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Williams?
Thank you very much, Chair. I've got a number of questions on outcome 1. Do you want me to start with the first few and then have a break for answering them?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the first one is, since this report went to Cabinet, there's now the proposal that nursery provision is potentially removed from our schools. So what impact will this now have, if that is the case, on this report and any progress that you're intending to make? That's my first question, please.
Perhaps I can just add a rider to that as well. Now, there's an aspiration, isn't there, Lindsay and Becca, that all children of preschool age have the opportunity of accessing Welsh media provision within a reasonable distance from home. Now, during the medium-term financial strategy, as Councillor Williams alludes to, EDFS 4 proposes a 45% budget reduction in nursery provision, which, and I quote from the MTFS, it could have a negative impact on Welsh medium education in respect of rising 3- and 4-year-olds. So that was additional remarks to Councillor Williams's question, but perhaps, Lindsay, you can take that for us.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Williams. Obviously, the challenge for us will be, and it's just been identified very clearly within the medium-term financial strategy, is that it's a costly, although well-received provision in nursery across the local authority. Now, obviously, there are statutory duties placed upon local authority for the provision of school-based and non-maintained childcare and nursery education, which obviously the local authority must meet. But in Bridgend, obviously, we have an offer which exceeds that. And part of the MTFS is to look at ways that obviously we can reduce to some of the statutory minimums. It is fair to say, and the commentary is there for everyone to see in the MTFS narrative, is this will impact upon nursery. Obviously, if there's no nursery provision provided in school, that will disturb some of the throughput into settings in English medium and Welsh medium, of course. Nursery education is, of course, non-statutory. So again, this part of the overall review of our statutory provision. The challenge really for us is to make sure that there are opportunities, if Council are minded eventually, to look at the removal of nursery provision. What alternatives are there? So we, as Becca has said, we're working very closely with partners such as Midian Maithring and other partners to make sure that we have a variety of options to provide this early year provision for Welsh medium learners. So you'll be aware that we've recently, or in the last 2 years, secured 2.6 million from Welsh Government for 4 Welsh medium childcare provisions across the local authority. They will be clearly based in localities that are needed. And again, that will support that, hopefully then the throughput into schools, to answer Councillor Williams' previous question about the retention in the system. So will it affect it? Well, yes, it will, obviously, if it's removed. But clearly, we're looking at opportunities with other partners to make sure that it's not disturbed to the disadvantage of learners who want to pursue early years support for Welsh medium.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'll bring in the Cabinet Member now, Councillor Brundle.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Williams. Thank you, Councillor Williams and Councillor Williams. No, the point I really wanted just to reiterate to what Lindsay said and add is that, again, this is not the 30 hours free childcare and nursery provision that we do here in Bridgend is not statutory. The 20 extra hours that we give over the Welsh Government is not statutory. And I don't want to rehash the whole debate that we had during the budget negotiations about what's statutory and non-statutory and what we should provide, what's gold-plated, copper-plated, or whatever other plated you want. But it's important to know that, but we also have to make a balanced budget. And if we don't want to make this cut, we have to accept the reality of what could happen. And as Lindsay said, we are working with partners to make sure that there are alternatives. We are discussing this with Welsh Government. We have a new Cabinet Secretary for Mental Health in Early Years, in Jane Bryant, the new Minister, I should say. And so we're having discussions with them and see what else we could do to make sure that we have a provision and more provision, but also a diverse set of provision if, of course, Council decides that we are going to remove the non-statutory element of nursery provision here in Bridgend. So it's just really what I wanted to add.
Thanks, Councillor Brundle. I think the issue that both Councillor Williams and Councillor Evans have raised is that the risk of the budget reductions in so many different areas in terms of non-statutory nursery provision will come on to home to school transport for nursery and rising threes in a moment. But it seems to suggest that it's going to have to be what Councillor Evans has suggested, and that is a revision of the plan, because ultimately there is a risk that the current version of the Welsh Education Strategic Plan is unachievable as a result of financial implications. But I'll come back to Councillor Williams for her other questions.
Thank you very much, Chair. You sort of stole one of my questions in your rider to mine. I was looking at the concerns regarding access to Welsh medium nursery. Given that we're talking about whether council approve it or not, it's in our budget to make it balanced that nursery will be removed from schools. Otherwise, our budget is not balanced. So on that basis, you're looking at that. Subject to consultation, it will have to be removed. So there are going to be concerns with regards to Welsh medium nursery. If I can just go back to page 31, though, the second bullet point, I think there's a typo in there. I just wanted clarity on that, first of all, because it says to new the curriculum, and I think it's talking about the new curriculum. I think the there is in the wrong place. So I just wanted to check that is talking about the new curriculum rather than new in the curriculum. Then do you want me to come on to the next question?
Can we just confirm that? It shows you read the whole report, Councillor Williams. You've spotted typos in it.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, can you confirm which?
Page 31, second bullet point. It says to new the curriculum, but I think it's talking about the new curriculum. So I just wanted clarity that we've already talked about the new curriculum and how it can improve Welsh.
Yeah, I think new and the are just the wrong way around, are they?
Yeah.
Curriculum, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are talking about the new curriculum there, that's fine. Yeah, so again, talking about the concerns about access to Welsh medium nursery, and we're looking at, there's the stats on the low take-up on pages 36 and 37 in some areas. We're looking at 10% in some areas who've moved on then to Welsh medium. Now, as Chair of Governors of COITI, each year since 2018, we've been at capacity at nursery and we've been sending children away to look at other schools. In that time, only one child has opted for Welsh medium, and that's after their second choice school wasn't available. They were at capacity too. So that to me sends alarm bells as well, that parents are not choosing Welsh medium education for their children. So I wondered what we can do. This report is saying what the plans are, but in reality, there isn't that much movement on encouraging. Now, my husband's a Welsh speaker. He wouldn't have the confidence to send our children to a Welsh medium school because he wouldn't then be able to maintain, whilst he's a Welsh speaker, he wouldn't be able to maintain their teaching and support at home, whereas as English, both of us speak English, we have a better understanding, a better support network at home. So I wondered what we're going to do to encourage parents as well to make those decisions to send their children to the Welsh medium nursery and then on to the reception. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Blundell.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Williams. First off, we are promoting our brilliant Welsh as well as our English medium schools. You know, last I went to the launch of a new video done for us by one of the school governors who I believe works for a Welsh language television channel. You can probably figure out what channel that is. Other channels are available. To promote the Welsh language and to promote that it is a fantastic skill to learn, and you can get a brilliant education through Bridgend through that if you start that. And you're quite right, we need to promote more, and it is difficult when you've got parents who are maybe from England or didn't study Welsh. Like I didn't study Welsh at school. I didn't get the opportunity to. Would I be confident enough to send my child to Welsh medium education? But it's about we need to help parents work through that, and there are courses available where we can help parents feel more confident with their children's homework. And obviously, but it is difficult. But we are promoting as best we can to our parents to say that this is an option for you. Don't think it's a barrier. Don't think it's just for some other people. It is Welsh medium education is for everyone. It's everyone in this country, whether you're from England, whether you're from Wales, or whether you're from Europe or further afar. Welsh medium education, like English medium education, is for everyone in this county borough, and we're trying to promote that and obviously give support to those parents who, like you say, may not feel confident enough to help their children. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blundell. Lindsay?
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of points, really. It's important that Councillor Amanda Williams has raised the issue there around certain settings. There's low transition. It's a really important point. So, for example, we were trying to tackle these head on. So one of the areas there is Porthcawl. Well, clearly one of the things that we're aiming to do with the Welsh Government is to establish the Welsh Medium Seedling School in Porthcawl. We're hoping that that will encourage parents then to progress from Welsh medium childcare, Welsh medium non-maintained setting into schools. So that's an important point. And we're also looking to localise provision, obviously in Brogo and in other areas of the local authority, for example, the Ogmore Valley. With regard to children being offered a place, I think Councillor Williams just picked that up. I think it's an important point to make in this meeting is that there is no child that's applied for a Welsh medium place in this county that's been refused a place without having an alternative place. In the rare occasion where there is no room, we provide an alternative place in another Welsh medium school, and in addition, and this is not statutory, we provide free home to school transport for that learner to attend another Welsh medium place. So again, that's certainly above and beyond the local authority do, because we think it's a really important point that if parents want Welsh medium education for their children, we provide it and make it as easy as possible to get that. The last point I want to raise, and I think it's a really important one, we are what we see, and I'm sure Catherine will tell us this, is the vast majority of families where children go to Welsh medium schools are not Welsh medium speakers. We see that, but that's certainly not an obstacle, and we see people having outstanding results, and not least Estyn have told us they get these outstanding results in a recent inspection at Llangynnoed. So there is no barrier, in my view, of a parent who doesn't have Welsh language skills. But in addition to that, part of the WESP is obviously to work with Mentor Brogo and other partners to obviously encourage adults to learn Welsh and provide every facility to do so.
Thank you, Lindsay. And Becca, you have some supplementary remarks?
I have. So as part of, I just want to pick up on Councillor Amanda Williams's point about promotion of Welsh medium schools. So the Early Year and Childcare team have created a booklet, a promotional material that kind of myth busting to Welsh medium education and kind of breaking down barriers, which is why choose Welsh medium education. They've also they've printed tens of thousands of copies, which are then located in doctor surgeries and schools and libraries and things around the borough. And then they've also got an electronic version, which is also shared then with nurseries and other places. As part of our work with the WESP and the subgroup, the Promotion, Marketing and Celebrating subgroup, last year we created a video which was launched in October, which highlights a pupil's pathway through Welsh medium education, starting off with Cymraeg i Blant, which offers parent and child baby groups, then go into TRV sessions with Mudiad Meithrin, which leads them on to Cylchoedd Meithrin, the opportunities that pupils have within Welsh medium schools and the schools that they have and the ALN bases, then on to Llangynnoed, and it also noted the opportunities that pupils have to socialise through the medium of Welsh with the support of the Urdd and Mentor Brogo. So that's a 10-minute video. Comms team are currently breaking that down into certain sections so that we're able then to send out messages on social media to promote the late immersion provision with a clip from the video about late immersion, to promote early years provision with a clip from there with some messages. So that's all part of the Promotion, Marketing and Celebrating subgroup that's going on at the moment. So I just thought I'd share that information. Yeah.
Thank you, Becca. Back to you, Councillor Williams.
Yeah, I'll just ask my last questions now, and then I have got some more on nursery, but I know the others they've added on to those that are coming after me, some of my questions. So page 36, 37, I said about the low take up in some places, but these are 2019, 2020 stats. So firstly, I wondered if we've got more up-to-date stats, and have we seen an improvement on these figures in recent years, or have the figures gone down? And secondly, Are we surveying parents each year, particularly nursery parents, to see why they've chosen English medium, not Welsh medium, and asking them for support and asking them why they're making the choices that they are? Because that's, I think, is the first place we can start then, and seeing why these decisions are being made. Particularly when I said about Coity, for example, only one child choosing Welsh medium, and all these other children have gone to schools that they now have to travel past the Welsh medium schools. So that children are travelling further now when there was a Welsh medium school with capacity on the doorstep. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who would like to take that?
I'll take that, Diolch.
Oh, Lindsay or Becca?
Oh.
Who would like
I'll let Lindsay go first.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks, Becca. Thanks, Chair. Just covering off the point there, I think the second point is a really important one, and again, with regard to Brogo, it is a heavily subscribed school. It's an excellent school, and all the feedback we get from parents is very, very positive there. But I think, again, it's important to note that Brogo is not full. There are some year groups, obviously, that are subscribed heavily, but there are spaces in Brogo. And again, and through this particular meeting, Chair, I would encourage all parents who are looking to pursue a Welsh medium education for their child to get in touch with our People Services, and they will make sure that we provide that facility for them. So again, that's an important point with regards to Brogo. On some of the other points, Becca will come back with the detail with regard to trends. The survey and parent one's an important one, and I think one of the things that Becca's alluded to recently is looking at how we work with partners, because they've got mechanisms in place to do that. So we mentioned Midian Maithrin, for example. Well, obviously we use that data and we don't replicate that. That's sensible for us to do it. But what we also do as well, we communicate far better, we believe, with parents now with regard to the plan and the offer. Becca will talk about shortly, I hope, some of the posters and the communication we've engaged with the early years and childcare team, which have been really successful recently. And also just come back on a point that Councillor Blundell made, the video that's been produced is really good. We've had really good feedback from that from the public and from Welsh Government. And hopefully that's part of that communication too. So through you, Chair, if I could hand on to Becca, and hopefully Becca will be able to provide some update on the trends.
Thank you, Lindsay. Becca?
Yeah. So our partner, Midian Maithrin, they're the ones that, as part of their work, and they report this information to Welsh Government and then share them with the local authorities. So they're the ones that provide the data in terms of number of pupils that are in the number of children that are in the Cylchoedd Maithrin and then transfer to Welsh medium education. As part of their work this year, they've done an audit of which Cylchoedd Maithrin have high numbers transferring, those being the ones that are attached to Welsh medium schools, such as Ysgol Cynoedd Sant. And then the other ones then have not been so successful in transferring pupils over. They're looking at the reasons why, and also looking at places that they're able to open to encourage more children then to transfer from the new Cylch Maithrin, which then will hopefully be located very closely to the Welsh medium schools if they don't have a Cylch Maithrin. So that's a piece of work that Midian Maithrin are doing, and then they feed back to us then within Outcome 1 subgroup. The childcare team, they also work very closely with Midian Maithrin as well, and looking at supporting English medium nursery schools, trying to increase the amount of Welsh that's being spoken there. They've got projects which I can't think what the names are, but it's about the Welsh promise and increasing the amount of Welsh that's used, and hopefully creating a little unit, Welsh medium unit with English medium schools. So there's lots of work going on with private sector and the Cylchoedd Maithrin and the nurseries. Diolch.
Thank you, Becca. Councillor Williams, you'd like to come back on that one?
Yes, please. Just that, have we got updated figures, or are these reflective of current years as well? And I note we're speaking to parents in some circumstances, but I think it's key to contact all parents. So when the offers for nursery are being made, all parents, why have they chosen English medium over Welsh medium? So that we get a clearer picture across the borough of the decisions behind choosing that school for that child. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Williams. Lindsay, you'd like to come in on this one?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Williams. I'll have to check this, but something tells me that we're not permitted to ask that within the. So when parents indicate where they want their child to go, I believe that we're not allowed to do that, but I will check that with the school admissions team.
Thank you, Lindsay, for that commitment. Councillor Williams, you contend?
Yeah, just apart from have we got updated stats, please?
Becca can confirm that.
Midget Meithrin, I think they've only just submitted them to Welsh Government, so they're on their way to us. So, but it's looking at last year's. But as soon as they'll update us now in the summer term. But we're meeting soon in the next couple of weeks to look at the trends and the number of pupils transferring and looking at the reasons why, if they are known, because they're kind of on the ground. So those Cylchoedd Meithrin are able to discuss with parents, with the local authority, are not able to ask those questions. We can kind of get a generalised reason from the Cylchoedd Meithrin, from the staff. Yeah, so we've got a task and finish group looking at transition numbers from Cylchoedd Meithrin and numbers there, and they'll also share the plans with us then on what their plans are to open new Cylchoedd Meithrin and TRVs.
Great, thank you, Becca. Councillor Blundell.
Just to say, once we do that, the cabinet report or the scrutiny report in the summer, like we've already said, we can make sure those details are all in there, so you can have a picture from last year, sort of going into the new September, if you will. So we can make sure those details are in there. Obviously, the calendars all line up, of course.
Exactly. In future years, we'll have up-to-date figures which can form the basis of scrutiny before it's taken to cabinet, as we've already committed to doing so. Councillor Martin Jones now on childcare hubs, I believe.
Thank you, Chair. If I could take members, please, to page 34 and 35 of the report, which talks about the childcare provision. And I think we've given them a good name, Cymraeg 2050 childcare hubs. And our plan, of course, across the county borough is to have 4. We're very, very grateful to have one in Betws. I look at the information on page 34 and 35, and it does appear to be very much historic. So can I ask, what is the situation today in April 2024 in relation to the 2 hubs that have been constructed, that is Betws and Blackmill, please?
Thank you, Martin. Who'd like to take that? Becca?
I'm sure Lindsay will be able to give more background here, but we have 2 hubs now built, one in Blackmill, one in Betws. The childcare team have all the paperwork together now, and adverts have gone out for private providers to go to apply for tender, and there's open days booked in for the Betws campus, the Betws childcare settings. Lindsay, would you be able to provide more information?
Okay, I'll bring in Lindsay now, Becca. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Becca. This is hot off the press because I anticipated this question. So obviously I've asked the childcare team this morning to give me an update. So first of all, the ones that are yet to be built, this is the ones that we're aligning with Brogo and the Welsh Medium Seedling School in Porthcawl. Well, obviously they'll come in due course when those schools are built. So again, where we're at with the 2 settings of Betws and Blackmill, the challenge inevitably has been attracting providers into those settings. We've worked very, very closely with Welsh Government on this, and indeed finance officers, to make sure that we provide incentives, obviously legitimate incentives, to encourage the providers to work out of these settings. So we've invited interested providers to come along and view the childcare settings. This took place yesterday, so I said it was hot off the press. There were 2 interested parties. Both of these providers have a proven track record in delivering Welsh medium provision elsewhere, so obviously very positive there. As Beck has indicated, the childcare team are now finalising paperwork to open up a procurement exercise, and then hopefully we can work with corporate landlord and the successful provider to make sure that this moves at pace going forward. With regard to Blackmill, I'm informed that all resources and furniture are now on site, and the team are now going to spend a couple of days at that setting just to make sure that they're ready for the opportunity to advertise that site for providers as well. So again, it's taken some time. Again, we've worked very hard with Welsh Government and the market on this, but hopefully this will now move at pace to get these providers in. Obviously, it will be subject to a successful procurement exercise.
Thank you, Lindsay. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And can I thank Lindsay for that very detailed response? Perhaps we could amend the targeted action plan then on page 82, which it does suggest both settings are open. The difficulty, of course, that the authority finds itself in is that it gets a capital grant to provide the facility, but of course it doesn't have a revenue grant to run the facility. And the success of these facilities would be so reliant on the private sector. And that is going to be, I think, a big threat to the whole rollout of this facility across the county borough. So my suggestion, perhaps, and I'm no doubt that Lindsay and the Cabinet member are considering this, is are Welsh Government minded to provide revenue funding to at least get these facilities up and running? And of course, we can't ignore the fact that we have, especially in Betos, an excellent facility, a very modern, excellent facility, which I've visited many times, which has been empty, standing empty now for nearly 18 months or so, coming up to 2 years perhaps. And I have very, very difficulty in trying to reassure the community that their council tax is being spent wisely, because of course, yes, we support 9.5 increases in precept, but from a public perception is we've got a new childcare facility that is not being used, has been paid for by their tax, and it does affect our reputation. So perhaps, you know, I'm raising this because I'm very conscious that this is a public forum. The public are unaware of the difficulties that the authority are trying to negotiate, and perhaps we can share those concerns with Welsh Government, especially in terms of trying to get some revenue from them. And perhaps, finally from me, we can get some comms out, some good communications out to communities to tell them exactly what is going on. And a first protocol would be perhaps getting the comms out to our primary schools. We've got 2 very good primary schools in Betos who are a little bit out of the loop in relation to what is going on with this facility. So if we started there with these 2 schools, and those schools then could use their monthly newsletters to update parents as to where we are with this facility in Betos. Use Betos as an example then, as when we manage Blackmill and when we manage the 2 others, one in Porthcawl and one in Bridgend, of course. But thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Bundle.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Williams. Thank you, Councillor Jones, for the question. You know, we just to sort of have on your first point about the conversations we've had with Welsh Government about it. We met, myself, the leader, and Councillor Gebby and Councillor Farr all met with the previous Minister for Welsh Language and Education, Jeremy Miles, and the former Deputy Minister for Early Years, Julie Morgan, to have those conversations. And we've been able to have a dialogue offline since then, to, as Lindsay mentioned, about the work that's gone on after it. But we've also written to the new Cabinet Secretary for Education and the new Minister for Early Years and Mental Health to have, again, put that on the agenda for our first conversations with them, because as you quite rightly pointed out, they've been built, they're there, we just need to get people in them now. And so we need to have those conversations about not just these facilities, but also Borogo and the New Seedling School in Porthcawl, and also a wide range of issues that contain into this West. So it's on our list, it's on our agenda that we've written, and we have written to both of them to ask them to come to Bridgend and have a discussion and have a dialogue about that. And I'm sure once that happens, we're more than happy to update the committee on what their findings are. And I think Lindsay wants to come in because he's waving at me, to come in on the comms side of it all. So I'll hand over to Lindsay if you put my chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bundle. Lindsay, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks to Councillor Jones. And just to reiterate, there's been significant work with Cabinet directly with Welsh Government on this. To cover off Councillor Jones's points, and they're really important ones actually, is that we've had obviously the capital funding from Welsh Government, and that's covered the cost of this building in its entirety. So there's no cost to the local authority with regard to capital costs. But Councillor Jones is absolutely right. There is no revenue funding that comes with these. We have approached Welsh Government on this, but they've been very clear it's only capital costs, of which we're extremely grateful, by the way, for the significant amount of funding we've had from Welsh Government. But we've had to use revenue funding to maintain these settings. It's minimal at the moment, but going forward, part of the incentives we're offering, for example, is having corporate landlords support the sites with regard to the site fees, for example. We're encouraging providers with that. The communication updates, I think, is very important. To date, we have communicated via Team Bridgend, so that's the cross-phase head teachers meeting, the Bridgend Governance Association, the Bridgend Association of Secondary Heads, and the Primary Federation, and provided updates on all of those. But again, one of the things I think we can do is directly communicate with governing bodies, which I'll endeavour to do after this meeting. And the last point, Chair, I think is really important that this committee understands this. There's been enormous effort over the last 2 years to encourage providers into these settings. And I think it's fair to say, Becca, this has been a difficult journey because we've had very, very little interest. We're at a stage now where by incentivising and working very closely with Welsh Government, we're hopefully there now. But again, we are dealing with a limited market.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll bring in Councillor Winstanley now.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to come in and make the remark about the vast majority of parents of children in Welsh medium are English speaking and don't have any Welsh, which Lindsay has already made. But that was one of the things that did surprise me on a learning walk at Ysgol Fergus. My question, though, is also on there's mention of the Cylch Muffin in Porthcawl that are now closed. There's been mention of the seedling school that is planned. The date given for that to open in the report is September 2024. I can't see that's going to happen on schedule. I also have concerns about another school, the Welsh medium school, as you can imagine. So what is the update on the Welsh medium seedling school in Porthcawl?
Thank you, Councillor Winstanley. Lindsay?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Winstanley. Again, I predicted these questions would be raised today, quite rightly so, really. I'll give you a general update, really, on where we are with the provision within Band B. So this is the Welsh medium schools within the current phase of the current Sustainable Communities for Learning. So Ysgol Cymraeg Bro Ogwen is currently in design. We're currently waiting for information from partners in respect of a site investigation. Obviously, as you'll be aware, there's a wide range of issues that we need to consider, from ecological to topology and other areas within this. We're also looking for Welsh Government to confirm the position with regard to the mutual investment scheme. Then this relates to Ysgol Fergus in the Connelly area. Officers have recently met with technical advisors and with Welsh Government partnership company project managers. While we're unable to confirm the exact date of deliveries yet, we're currently waiting on information from Welsh Government and external partners. And again, unfortunately, this relates to exactly the same position with the Welsh Medium Seedling School. So we have the funding for the Welsh Medium Seedling School, which is positive. And again, as soon as we have confirmation from Welsh Government and external partners, when I mean external partners, we're talking builders, designers, etc. Obviously, then I'll make sure that elected members are updated. But at present, obviously, this will not be available from September 24. But as soon as we have a more realistic update on when this delivery date will be, I'll share that with elected members.
Thank you. Councillor Bundle?
Just to also add, following on from the previous conversation we had with Councillor Jones, again, there is capital funding to go along with the seedling school in Porthcawl, but there is no revenue funding to go along with it. So we'd have to find the revenue funding going forward. So just to really add that point into the conversation. Thank you.
Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Chair. I mean, the nuclear question will be, if we cannot provide Welsh medium education facilities at these hubs, are we going to go to Plan B and encourage English medium service providers to take up these facilities?
Yeah, and I just added right into that, Councillor Jones, is that I think that the commitments to capital spending on Ysgol Fergus, Ysgol Bro Ogwen and the seedling school in Porthcawl, if they are delivered, but the revenue funding isn't attached to those, there is a huge risk, isn't there, associated with the delivery of this WESP. So therefore, what political direction, Councillor Brundle, have you given to the Education and Family Support Director with regards to the capital spending? Are these projects definitely going to go ahead, or because the revenue funding may not follow, these potential projects could be at risk? And then perhaps you can address Councillor Jones's point about English medium provision as well.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I'll take Martin, Councillor Jones first, and then I'll take your question first, just in the order that they're there, because also the order they're in my head. So on Councillor Jones' point about whether or not we can use them for English medium, if the money has been brought from Welsh Government for the capital spend for a Welsh medium setting, we cannot change that to English medium. We have had that conversation, I think that was question 3, in our meeting with the former Minister and Deputy Minister, and we were very politely told no. In fact, they will stay open, they will stay closed and empty if you cannot find, you'll have to find another use for them around Welsh medium education. On Chair, your point about the capital programme as a large, as you know, as the leader has said previously in this meeting, that it is a very ambitious capital project. The direction I've given the director and our not called school modernisation programme, but we're going to call it that for this, is that we are going to focus on the schools that are in the most need first and go from there. And if we can't, we'll take each project as it comes, and because you can't look at it all in one big homogenous blob in the sense of school modernisation project. You have to sort of look at each project differently. We look at a school Scare, and I'll also throw in the English medium school in Kennelly. A school Scare is our worst considered rated for the building itself. So we can't, that building may close itself in a few years' time. We don't know. So we need to make sure there is a set in there. But then also, it's also tied in with the English medium school. So we'd have to have a look at the English medium school there as well. But each project will be done on its merits, and that's the direction I've given. I want us to try and get as much of this project done in this, and if it's not, they can be rolled over to Band C. Well, again, they're not being called bands, to Band C, so that it's still in the pipeline. It just might not be as soon as we hoped. It might be delayed further. But again, these are conversations that we're having with Welsh Government. Again, we have a new Cabinet Secretary, and I have a meeting, I and the Director have a meeting with the new Cabinet Secretary, as do all 22 of us, and I can guarantee this is, I think, number 2 on the agenda after school budgets, is the school modernisation programme. It's not just us, it's everywhere in Wales. But just to say, we are looking at each project as they come along, and we're dealing them each on each merit. But there's still, we're going to do them all, but it might not be as quick as we'd have liked. But they're still in the pipeline. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brundle. I'll come back on that in a minute, but I'll bring in Councillor Thomas, who I think has a question on school modernisation and capital funding.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Chair. I did have this question lined up for objective 2, but seeing as the Cabinet member has just talked about school modernisation, I wondered if I could come in now, really. And my point was, really, I really welcome the capital commitment in improvements for the school modernisation, but it does seem to be, I was going to say top heavy, but it's worse than that. It's exclusively towards primary education. There doesn't appear to be any provision for capital improvements for secondary school. Now, to put this back in context, I was invited to do a little tour of Ysgol Llangynoed. And to put this into further context, they're doing some wonderful things there. I know the head of the year, and I think he'd be the first to concede it's a team effort, what they're achieving there, and all the staff are wonderful there. But I was rather surprised about the quality and the standards of the school. For example, the tennis courts were just dilapidated. The drama studio and the science labs looked like something out of the 40s, I would say, really. Let's not forget as well, it's a second-hand school, if you like, formerly being Maesteg Comprehensive, which my wife attended, and she told me it hasn't changed an inch, actually. So I'm just wondering, really, is the Cabinet member really satisfied with the quality of capital infrastructure for Welsh medium secondary school? And I would very much like to do a revisit of that school if it would be permitted, really. I'm not sure if the head's here today, and to discuss any problems, really. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Bundle?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Councillor Thomas, for the question. It's a very fair question in that sense. You know, we are building primary schools, Welsh medium primary schools. Why aren't we building a brand new comprehensive? Well, I'm sure you read the report. It is mentioned in there that part of this plan is to build a new secondary school, Welsh medium secondary school in this county borough. Now, what that looks like, whether it'll be in will it be in the Limpy Valley, will it be outside the Limpy Valley, will it be 2 sites, a split site? I don't know. We're looking at all different options. Again, it's got her map out and she's looking at everything. So there is a commitment to do that new secondary school, but at the present moment in time, we're looking at capacity. Now, we need the capacity in primary school. There is a surplus of places in Llangollen, so we need more primary school children. That's why we focused on primary schools first. As I said about our school of Becclescare being the lowest rated of all our school buildings, English or Welsh, it is the lowest one. And then also there's the commitment to the seedling school to, again, enhance the numbers of school of Becclescare until eventually there is a Welsh medium primary school in Porthcawl. We've talked about Welsh medium in the southeast of the county, in Pencoy and Coedchurch. You know, so it's about building those surplus places. So when we do build the new comprehensive school, which is in the plan, which is in our again, it's not Band C, but we're going to call it Band C commitments as well. So that is where we're at with it. So we are building this school. I'm not happy with it, no, because I want to see every school to be a 21st century build. Of course I would. But we have to be realistic with what we've got and what the money we have. But it is in the pipeline. I think it's mentioned about 5-6 times in the report. So I'm hoping it's come across that it is in our mindset and that's something that we want to build. I'm sure Becca, I don't know if Becca or Lindsay have anything else to add on to that.
Perhaps I can just make a general comment because alarm bells are sounding for me, and perhaps the leader has signalled that he would like to come in as well. But perhaps I can just sum up my thoughts on this from what our discussion has flowed from so far, and then we'll take a short break after the leader has intervened. But you're proposing to enlarge Ysgol of Becclescare, develop Ysgol Rogw, a seedling school in Porthcawl. What happens if all of that capital expenditure occurs? There's no revenue funding to support it. We already have 2 settings which we can't fill and are vacant. We have 2 other settings which are a commitment in the West. We have fly-in start settings which may or may not be in place. Now, there's a risk here, isn't it, that you make millions and millions of pounds worth of capital investment and not able to actually fill the spaces. So that would be potentially a huge risk for the local authority. So perhaps I can bring the leader in first to comment on those remarks, and then I can bring in Councillor Bundle.
Thanks, Chair. I raised my hand to respond to Councillor Thomas's point, first of all, about Ysgol Gyfun Gymraeg Llangollen. Whilst, of course, the school was the location of the English medium school before it became the home of our first ever Welsh medium secondary school, there was a multi-million-pound investment that took place at the time of the transfer, and only recently there was a £155,000 investment, thanks to Welsh Government, in a new sports pavilion, refurbishment of tennis courts and a revamped sports hall, which I know has been welcomed by the school and by the local community, because the school is very focused on working very effectively with the local community. Of course, there is a risk around take-up of provision. However, where we have built new schools in places across the county borough, there has been a pattern of, and this is experienced across Wales, of rising demand for places in those schools. And we also know that the places where we're building the new schools, and that's different to the child, are places where there is a growing population. So the new Seedling School in Porthcawl is in a place that will experience significant growth of housing. A growth in housing will see more families with more children will require more school spaces, and we'll see that increase in demand. And likewise, we know that Bro Argw in Bracla is in an area of significant growth. We've seen a big growth in population in that part of the county borough, and we know that the demand is there for Bro Argw. And at Canelli, that is also one of our strategic sites of growth. So the biggest site of growth in the local development plan is off the A48, is to the west of Pyle, and that community, that major housing development, its nearest Welsh medium primary school would be Ddachosge in Canelli. But that is why we recognise the risk. We have consulted on these individual school projects. Members will have been consulted, and I know that we're bringing this back to, we're bringing the school modernisation programme to this committee for consideration. And I'm sure members will make some recommendations off the back of that, but certainly to reassure other colleagues here today, partners and head teachers who haven't been part of that process around school modernisation, there is a comprehensive and extensive consultation and engagement process that's required under the code. It's a legal requirement on us, and part of that individual assessment is around us identifying need and future demand. So that is very much part of the work that's been undertaken already and the work that will carry on into the future. Thank you for that, Chair.
Thanks. I think
was that long enough for you?
It was. You know, I recognise the supply and demand argument, but I'm sure you recognise the risk of the delivery of the Welsh Education Strategic Plan if you have capital funding invested, but as Councillor Jones said, the revenue funding doesn't follow. So, and if you have vacant...
Yeah.
Well, just 1 second, Leader, if I may complete my sentence. So if you have, therefore, a 45% budget reduction in nursery provision, which was included in the medium-term financial strategy, if you have home-to-school transport for nursery children removed because it's non-statutory, therefore you have fewer children accessing Welsh language provision, it is a logical assumption that the Welsh Education Strategic Plan needs to have a wholesale review to ensure that our ambitions are realistic and deliverable, because at the moment I can't see how the current Welsh Education Strategic Plan is deliverable based on the current financial assumptions.
So in response to that, Chair, what I would say is that you're basing that assessment, I presume, so you've talked about childcare facilities. They're not education facilities, they're childcare facilities. The demand and the cost of childcare provision is very different to that for education provision. The education budget that we're talking about and the school's budget that we're talking about is driven by pupil numbers. So schools are funded by us on the basis of those additional places. So if Bro Argw has, which will additional places, has additional pupils, it will receive additional funding. The authority. So we do make that provision available to schools. So I think there's an important difference there. But I do recognise that risk. We can of course consider whether that risk is
is different to what it was before, and certainly what we will be doing is look into, as we do now, is look to how other authorities have grown their provision, and there are places all across Wales where this model has been successful, and building those schools has resulted in greater pupil numbers, has been sustainable, has led to successful schools and delivered those outcomes for pupils. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Leader. I'll come to Councillor Bundle and then Councillor Williams before having a 10-minute break.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to say, the only thing I'd add to the Leader's comments is you mentioned there about home to school transport and the current proposals of removing of home to school transport for nursery and also for statutory age children. Welsh medium education is protected from that. So there would be in the Cabinet report that went to last Cabinet. It states in there that Welsh and faith medium schools, nursery and statutory age children would be protected from that, and they continue to receive home to school transport, while it would only be removed from English medium nursery places. Now, granted, obviously, I take the point about the nursery provision itself, the 10 hours and the 30 hours, but just to say, that homeschool transport, Welsh medium, is still, as is faith, still protected.
I was going to take a 10-minute break, but I'm just going to quote you EDFS 22 from the medium-term financial strategy, and that says, home to school transport is non-statutory and it could have an impact on pupils attending Welsh medium education.
I completely accept that, but I'm just saying what was in the Cabinet report at last Cabinet is that you're quite right. We could remove it from Welsh medium. That could be an option, but the current proposal that we put in to consultation does not make that assessment, and that Welsh medium would still be protected, still get it.
However, the medium-term financial strategy, which was approved by Council, has that narrative included in it.
I completely understand that.
I'm not entirely sure how it's consistent with the Welsh Education Strategic Plan and Cymraeg 2050 national policy objectives. However, anyway, we'll agree to disagree on that one then, and we'll go to Councillor Williams before taking a 10-minute break.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to add to what you were saying, Chair, with regards to capacity at some of these schools, because as I raised earlier in the report, this paper was produced before our budget meeting. So if we remove if we remove nursery education from schools, will there be too much capacity in these new build schools, such as Bro, which I fully support are in desperate need of a new school. So I'm not against that. It's within my ward as well. It will be built. Fantastic opportunity for children. But when we were looking at the extension of Coity Primary School, and the figures that came out to us in council and went to Cabinet suggested that there will be a fall in roll in Bro. So in January 2027, the figures that were published in our pack for council at the time said that the school would have 610 places, yet there would be 356 to 369 on roll. So I just wanted to add that in context of what you were saying, Chair, with regards to your concerns about capacity and whether we can fill them, particularly when this is made up as well of nursery provision, which could be removed. So I have concerns, and I have concerns with regards to funding, having been a governor and now chair of governors of a school that has moved to a new premises with Coity, in that you are only breaking even when we have 28 pupils in a classroom. So how are these schools going to sustain this and ensure that we are not heaping on too much burden onto these schools as well? So I just wanted to raise that as my concern going forward. I know it would be lovely for us to fill up this school and fill it up with Welsh speakers. But then again, what Councillor Thomas said about capacity in comprehensives, if we do fill up these schools and we suddenly have 610 places that are full, do we have capacity then in the comprehensive schools to take this forward? So I just wanted to raise that before we have our break. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I'll bring in Lindsay for some final remarks before we take our break.
Thanks, Chair. And again, I'll try and round up a lot of the conversation, really, because it is a fair point. And I think one of the things that we've identified within all of our proposals is obviously to work very closely with planners and to make sure that it's a very intelligent overview on what we're proposing. So I think there's a couple of key things here. So first of all, if I may, Chair, I'll just cover in way of rounding some of this up before a break. So again, with regard to the issue with Ysgol Gyfun Cymraeg Llangynaid, again, Councillor Thomas referred to a former pupil there. I'm a former pupil of that site as well. So obviously I know the site particularly well. I can provide information to this committee that Ysgol Gyfun Cymraeg Llangynaid has been the largest recipient of capital funding of any of our secondary schools over the last 5 years, which has totaled approximately £1.3 million. So again, there's been significant work that's gone in there. The leader has referred to the sports pitch, for example. However, with regard to our plan, we need to look at the whole estate. And again, when we look at schools like Pencode, Cymfig and Porthcawl comprehensive schools, the requirement and backlog maintenance of those schools exceeds that of Llangynaid. So we've had to take a very measured approach in where we allocate funds with corporate landlord. As noted in the plan, we have looked at a number of options appraisals with regard to site of relocating and expanding Llangynaid. The point is well made by Councillor Amanda Williams, because obviously if we grow in the primary school estate, we have to make sure that the secondary school estate will cope with that. And again, Catherine will be aware that MyRig is part of a task and finish group, which I chair, and we look at this moving forward. So it's very live as part of our considerations. And part of it, of course, is looking at centralising part of that provision to another part of Bridgend. There is a statutory requirement from Welsh Government for us to grow Welsh medium education. That is very, very clear. And I think it's also very clear that the expectation from Welsh Government is that we prioritise the building of new Welsh medium schools. So again, this is an expectation that's been very clear placed on the local authority by Welsh Government. Taking on the school places issue with demand, well, obviously we make sure that we address the demand areas first. Councillor Amanda Williams is absolutely right with the part of Bridgend in Bracknell and Coity. There is oversubscription in some years in that area, so clearly it's wise to put additional provision in that area of Bridgend. And to cover off the point the leaders quite rightly made, there's a very different approach to revenue funding from Welsh Government with regard to statutory education than childcare. It operates completely differently. So again, there will be additional provision made on a financial basis from Welsh Government to cover that. The last point I just want to make, and I think that this is a key one, Councillor Amanda Williams has raised the point around legacy funding issues with schools as they grow. And again, this is difficult, and I fully appreciate this. I was the inaugural deputy head teacher of Maesyle back in the day, and that grew exponentially over the first 3 years, and we were in the same position there. So I've lived, breathed, and ate it, Chair. So I know exactly the challenges that we face. But the one thing, hopefully, that all chairs of governments and governing bodies will see is we adopt a very sympathetic approach to that from our finance, and we work with schools on that. So hopefully, Chair, that's a roundup of the discussion we've just had.
Thank you for that, Lindsay. And I'm now going to call a 10-minute break, and we'll return at 12:05 p.m. Thank you.